There is a part of me that I feel like is kind of like clinging, like holding on to this idea that I have to guide them. They need my help. What is my purpose? What is my function?
I don't know.
Something told me that I need to record this video and just ask these questions to myself, because I've been like spinning my wheels and putting all of this time and attention on things that are essentially details, but they're not the big picture. It's like if I'm constructing a house and I'm spending all the time on the crown molding, but the whole house needs to be made and I don't even know what kind of house it is. When I think about philosophy, it's trying to answer the question, who are we? What is life? What's the point of life? What does it mean to live? And I like these questions. I just feel like I don't know if that's necessarily the question that I'm trying to answer. What is life, or what is the point of life? But there is a question that I'm meant to explore and experiment with. I was thinking about human behavior because human behavior has always interested me, but not every aspect of human behavior. I remember I was writing a book where the fairy tales, but they were all living together in one world. Kind of like whatever that show is, the Cinderella and what the hell is that show? Enchanted, Timeless.
What?
No.
No!
Once Upon a Time, is that what it's called? Kind of like that, but I came up with the story before Once Upon a Time was even a thing. When I was writing that story, what really interested me about human behavior and human psychology, how you could actively depict behaviors like borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, how you could depict that in a story, because I didn't want to just outright say that Red Riding Hood, for instance, had borderline personality disorder. What? I wanted to leave enough breadcrumbs, enough of a pattern for people to be able to pick it up. And that is something that I'm really interested in too. Patterns and how everything can kind of match up and sync together, and then it all makes sense for the bigger picture. That's why I look into things. I'm looking for a pattern. Like, I feel like everything is a pattern in some way. I just got this weird feeling of like everything's a pattern because we're in a simulation.
We don't know.
You need to stop that right now!
Oh my God. It's a really weird simulation if we're in one. What's the point?
Oh my God!
But I do feel like there is a, as they would say, grand design, or like a pattern. And if only you can zoom out enough, you'll be able to actually see the pattern and see the connective thread. Once you recognize the pattern, then you will know what to do. For some reason, it makes me think about the fact that I have a fibers and material studies degree. There's so much pattern involved. What is a pattern? A pattern is a sequence of 3 or more things together. That's how pattern is formed. If you are crocheting something, just one stitch is just one stitch. 2 stitches is like a couplet, but 3 is now you have a pattern. It's able to be recognized by the eyes, by the mind, and by the soul of, oh, this is a pattern that you're doing. It's the same thing in music. Music is all pattern. You're not really gonna be able to recognize the pattern until you've gotten it 3 times. Like if I just went boom, 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 boom. By the 3rd, maybe even the 2nd time, you understand that that's what the pattern is, and then you're able to just groove subconsciously because you feel safe in the fact that you now recognize the pattern. You're like, oh, okay, so I can let my body do this instinctively because I understand that's the pattern that I'm working with. And then of course there's syncopation or whatever, where it's like you create the pattern then you change the pattern. That creates like, oh, cool spontaneity or whatever. But you have to establish the pattern first. Syncopation can't work if you don't actually establish a pattern. And so maybe I have faith in people that once they understand the pattern, then they will instinctively be able to instinctively dance, if you will, to the rhythm. I don't want to post this. Do I actually not believe that humanity is instinctive or smart enough or has enough motivation and gumption to move forward once they've seen a pattern? Do I not believe that? Because there is a part of me that I feel like is kind of like clinging, like holding on to this idea that I have to guide them. They need my help to figure out what to do once they've uncovered the patterns. Because I feel like in a way too, that's what therapy is, not necessarily the guiding part. But a therapist is there to be this objective person who can connect dots and show you the pattern and say, hey, this is the pattern. And people do pay a lot of money for that. I now have to think about the other parts of my life are also pieces of a pattern that I'm trying to stitch together to realize, like, wait, what is this pattern? Like, what is this? Come on! What is this connective tissue? Yeah, it sounds very fleshy. What is the pattern in my own life of the things that I do? Like, what is the connection there? And I trust in myself that if I find the pattern within myself, then I will know what to do. So why do I feel like I can't trust that if I help people see the patterns in their lives, then that they won't know what to do? Because is it not instinctive?
No!
Once we see a pattern, we now know what the next step of the pattern is, and the next and the next and the next ad infinitum, because we understand the pattern. Like, isn't that how math works? Is pattern the right word to use? Design. But then design has a connotation that it can be sort of like loosey-goosey and organic, versus pattern has like a math to it, it has a regimen to it, which is why it keeps coming back to the whole matrix simulation thing. Is that bad necessarily? What? Not the idea that we're in a simulation in the sense that people think about being in a simulation, like this has been fabricated by some sort of government figure in order to control us and restrict us or whatever, but more like the pattern isn't a limit. It's not a box that traps you or keeps you confined. A pattern is your own boundaries. You know, it's not walls. Like if you talk about, like, I have so many walls up. It's not a wall, it's a boundary. This is who you are. This is like recognizing the skin of who you are, and anything that's not the skin is not you. That's what a pattern is. Say for instance, if you have 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 7, 9. No, that's not even right. Damn it, I don't know math. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. At first, these numbers don't really seem to connect at all, but then when you realize that they are prime numbers, then you can see why certain other numbers didn't work in the pattern, because they weren't a part of the pattern. They weren't a part of the family, if you will. Like if you see a pattern as a family, like as a unit, you would understand why 6 isn't in the family, why 9 isn't in the family, because of the pattern. The pattern helps you understand the boundary, helps you also understand why other things don't fit.
She doesn't even go here.
Helps you understand more of who you are so that you can expand naturally. You can expand within your own boundaries because you just take in more of what's you. You just take in and take in and take in more of what's you. Just like in a pattern, you might have just started with 2 and 5, 7 and 11. But once you understand that that's the pattern and that's you, that's who you are, then you can just take in more and more of who you are. Then you take in 13, you take in 17, because you recognize that that is who you are. And you'll do it instinctively unless you don't know what prime numbers are.
Are you insane?
I don't know.
I love that analogy. We're all trying to figure out what the pattern is so that we can understand who we are, so that we can shed what's not us and expand into more of us.
Simple, but effective.
Is that my purpose?
I don't know.
Once you know how something works, you can do anything. It's the same thing with the body. It's like what I'm trying to figure out with cancer, because I have cancer. There is a pattern. Cancer has to follow rules just like everything else. There's a way that this thing works. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What are the rules? Because everything has to follow a rule.